Well, hi everybody. I'm back. So today I'm going to share my summary for the 4th week of my Artist in Residence assignment here at Bandelier National Monument in New Mexico. So that takes us from, let's look at the calendar. So that takes us from, I'm going to talk to you about Tuesday the 22nd through yesterday, Monday the 28th. So it really was ramping up big time. So one thing that's really fun is, I think I talked about it last time, that balance between experiencing the different environments and experiences and just areas that the park here, the monument, has to offer. And as part of that, there were 6 trails that I wanted to do. And I got all but 4 of them done in earlier weeks. And I've already talked to you probably about the Keone Overlook, about going up and down the Fry, all the turnbacks and the precipices there, doing the Falls Trail down towards the Rio Grande to see the big waterfall. And the main loop, obviously getting very familiar with the main Pueblo Loop Trail and all of the sites there. So those 4 were in previous weeks. This week I did my last 2. So Tuesday went to Sankowi, which is associated with Bandelier, but it's several miles away. It's right where 502 as you're going into Los Alamos, and you merge onto 4 to come into White Rock. Like within a mile of that is suddenly on the left. You blink and you're gone. If you pass Jemez Road to go into the National Lab there at Los Alamos, you've gone too far. It's kind of like on the shoulder, real broad shoulder parking area and a fence, and a way in to Sankowi. And it's a sister Pueblo location, part of the San Ildefonso Pueblo group. And so it has a whole nother set of large Pueblo ruins. They've chosen not to excavate it per the wishes of the Pueblo people currently, but you can still, there's still enough that you can still see the evidence of those ruins and whatnot. So things like the shards of all the pottery are there and intact. And here at the park, they ask that you don't remove anything. So Mary, my base camp friend, was awesome. She met me, and we probably spent 3 hours in Sankowi and climbing up all the ladders. There are paths worn into the tuff, that compressed volcanic ash, where the ancient Puebloan people were just through either their bare feet, sandal feet, moccasin feet. They wore paths into that tuff, or steps into that tuff, to navigate around that, basically that plateau and that mesa and all of the cliffs there to get there. They also had petroglyphs. I mean, some of those paths were like up to our hips, and we were scooching around in them. And there was a really cool cave 8 there that you could actually go into. My friend Mary could actually stand up in it. It was pretty cool. Great photo ops. So it was just a fun day of exploring and just enjoying the very, very unique environment and cultural history here in Bandelier National Monument. So that was Tuesday. That wore me out for Tuesday. So let's see. Well, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, Thursday. That's a duh, right? So I had basically 2 studio days of time around Thanksgiving, Wednesday before and Friday after, to actually get past just recording and making art, recording, like in my journal that I've shown you before, what I was experiencing, and actually start responding to it and whatnot. So I'm going to give you a show and tell, since you couldn't be at my artist talk, which was Sunday. So I'm mixing it all up here. So Wednesday, I, rolled up the carpet again, just started, basically doing underpaintings, pulling out the watercolor paper and doing underpaintings with the acrylics. Not random. I knew what ideas and intentions I was going for. So even though the starts looked very random, they were not. And I did those starts and basically left them spread out here all over the casita because I left around 3:30, 4 o'clock to head into Santa Fe because Mary and Jim and Tina were going to host me for Thanksgiving. So I went Oh wait, I didn't go. I worked into the night on Wednesday and into the morning. That's when I left them all. And so it was like noon on Thanksgiving that I left to Mary's. See, it all runs together. Anyways, regardless, got all those starts initiated. Got into town, had a lovely, peaceful, relaxing Thanksgiving. Very good food, home cooked Thanksgiving meal with my friends. Was able to have a leisurely morning and got back here to the park about 10:30 on Friday. And so I needed to basically take all those intentions and starts and start resolving them to a point where I was happy to share them at the artist talk on Sunday. Because after Friday, most of Saturday, daytime was spent on my final paint out on the trail. And I'll show you the two pieces that I did out there. And then the artist talk on Sunday. My friends Sue and Jim Sprague from Virginia actually were in Santa Fe for Thanksgiving, and so they actually came for my artist talk and great moral support and a visit before and after, so that was delightful. So with all that said, and then finally Monday, which was yesterday, Mary came back out and we did the Southern Rim Trail. So we went up the zigzag, up the face of the canyon. I never could have done that, by the way, earlier in the month. Did the Rim Trail, and we found the artist, the photographer who was here before me, a month before in October, had given me a hint on how to get a picture of the Alcove House, which is an amazing ruin in a large cave, probably 140 steps of 4 different ladders that you have to go up from the canyon floor to get up to the cave. That particular feature of the park has been closed. They're repairing bridges, they're doing some refurbishment of the actual ruins themselves, so that they can be preserved. So that part of the trail has been closed down. I'm like, oh, but I really want to see it. So Mary and I went, and we hiked that yesterday all along the rim, and then you have to go off trail a little bit to actually towards the rim to actually find it. And we found it, and it was just an amazing thing. So took great pictures. I'll add those to the blog and whatnot. Even encountered a very dry white skeleton, probably of a mule deer. I felt very much like Georgia O'Keeffe, snapping my reference photos of a skeleton. But anyway, that's kind of morbid, huh? Anyway, so what I'm going to close out the week 4 summary with is show and tell. And I'm not going to give the whole artist talk, but I am going to kind of give you the 3 categories of artwork that I accomplished here. So I'm going to show you all of it, but show you some of it. So phase 1 was really just record what I was seeing. I hadn't really been here long enough to figure out what about what I was seeing was really moving me. So it really was more the wildlife. These are reference photos. Here's an Abert squirrel. They are just really neat. They have these long tufted ears, and this particular guy is quite fat. I've actually photographed him a couple of times now and encountered him. He's not very afraid at all, but just really a lot of fun. Likes to pose, I think. The same thing early on. I probably have shown you these before, but they've gotten resolved a little bit more. A mule deer. Again, just recording the wildlife that I was able to capture photographs of. And then this is actually the only painting, I can't remember if I showed it to you before or not, and it's not quite done because my star is this ponderosa pine in this little cliff area here, so he needs to be brought up. But painting out on my own on a weekday out on the Fry Trail, didn't think I'd encounter anybody, encountered 8 people, it was hilarious. But anyways, just another exercise in recording what I saw. And in fact, all of the plein air pieces that I was doing out on the trail were recording what I saw. So this was last Saturday's. I was up at the end of the longhouse, right where they close the gate and say you can't go any further to go to Alcove House. And everybody was so disappointed, like, oh, the trail's closed. And I'm like, but I'm here doing art to give you something exciting at the end of your trail before you turn around. Some bought it, some didn't. Anyways, so here are the 2 record paintings, as I would call them, responding to some of the colors and trying to record the colors and the shapes of the cliffs at Longhouse, looking back towards the visitor center. And then another vista. These were both in the gouache. Another vista, just looking. Those far mountains here are actually across the Rio Grande, heading back towards Santa Fe. But just the cottonwoods, top sparkling, the ponderosas, and then the southern cliff wall. So that's an example of just, recording what I'm seeing here. The second category I talked about was starting to respond to what I was seeing. So what started really coming together for me was seeing the light out here is amazing, and in the canyon, the reflected light and the glow of the reflected light is truly something that captured my heart. Very early start, southern wall of the canyon, and this is a precipice edge of rocks at one of the curves of the Fry Trail. And what was so beautiful is the sun literally had just gone behind this, the crest of the south, and was still shining high on the north wall, which was reflecting down onto these rocks, which actually faced the north wall. And so trying to capture the glow, obviously this was not even 50% done, but just you can kind of see the idea of how I'm trying to respond to how the glow and the reflected light has hit me. The next one I did from a response point of view is a bigger piece because the Valles Caldera deserves something large because of the expanse, just the vastness and the expanse and the scale of 5 miles across this pasture land here, to the edges of that caldera set of mountains. So just to start again, I believe this is like the South Fork of the Jemez river that's coming through there. It's just as you come in the entryway. So again, this is probably only about 50% done, but an initiation of a response piece. Also at the caldera, I responded to trying to make a very moody piece. After the fires, it really just, the devastation of downed trees and dead trees, it looks like pickup sticks. And I had an actual coyote sighting, which I was just thrilled to have an actual sighting. And he stopped and he stared at us for a few minutes, and I fumbled my camera and did not get a good photograph. So I was able to find one of the rangers here takes amazing photographs, and so I used one of her coyote references for this. And so this one has started, kind of the pickup sticks of the fallen trees and the ghostly presence. Again, a response to what I saw. The other responses, y'all know I'm a wildlife artist. If you didn't, you'll know now. Was starting to do a little bit of combination, starting to move towards integration, but these are pretty simple. This is really environment and wildlife within the environment. So this is the environment in the background, which is just a start, is up on the mesa level, and a herd of mule deer that I encountered there. This is higher elevation, more towards the Valles Caldera, up in those areas, higher in the mountains, the mixed conifer forest of both ponderosas and the spruce sort of things, with a bull elk doing it's kind of an iconic pose of him calling. And then finally, more of what they call a riparian environment, which would be the creek side. So for Holes Creek, Little Bean Creek, which is what created this canyon and flows all the way through down to the Rio Grande, took a photo down on the Falls Trail, which makes the background, and then Sally King provided me reference photos of bobcats and cougars and whatnot. And so bobcats are attracted to those small mammals and birds that are attracted to the creekside environment. So that's why I have a bobcat here. Then finally, going from response and simple integration to what I stated in my proposal I wanted to accomplish, which was really to integrate the environment, the wildlife, the culture, cultural history, traces and echoes and whatnot. So this guy started just as a recording of the raven, who had a conversation with me in the parking lot. And I sat with him. I was like, I don't want to just do a portrait of the raven. And later, like week 3, I think, is when I found this sun petroglyph. It's actually a solstice marker along the sight line of one edge of the Pueblo ruins. And then here is that gorgeous North Canyon wall glowing. So to me, this is a nice integration of the cultural past, history, traces and echoes, wildlife that would have been constant then and now, and kind of that timeless environment in the canyon. So integration. A couple more, my last two I'll show you. Very early start on collage using the handmade papers I've showed you before, and the stamps of a couple of the petroglyphs, and starting to get some of the shapes and shadows and that glow there in the canyon wall. So this one also will have a couple cave 8s, which will also give that traces of, in addition to the petroglyphs, that traces of that culture and the traces of the people who lived here. And then finally, this guy. And I love the shadows, the colors in the shadows, the light in the canyon, the direct sunlight goes away very quickly. Most of the afternoon, this north face is what gets the light, and it's all reflected light into the canyon that you're getting. So this is the north rim with that afternoon direct sunlight on it, which bounces back here into the valley of the canyon. And this is the Pueblo ruins, which that tough brick is going to glow based on that. And then also capturing the prior historical presence. This is the very famous petroglyph here of the turkey. It has actually been adapted to become the logo of Bandelier National Monument. So that's going to be popped up a little bit to be a little clearer. And I don't know, I just love my watchers. The raven, who will be black, but just that idea of looking up in the wildlife in the canyon. And again, the fact that these guys they're here now watching us, and they were there then watching them. So an example of an integrated piece. So that's it for week 4 summary. Obviously, kind of hit the gas on the creation aspects of it in anticipation of the artist talk. And so next time I'll talk about kind of winding it all up, my lessons learned. I have some decompression days in Santa Fe, so I'll share, what kind of inspirations I find there as well in my week 5 summary. But until then, I hope this finds you and yours well. Enjoy the world around you. Make sure, as Georgia O'Keeffe would say, take time to look and see what's around you. All right, everybody, take care.